Welcome to Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. I'm Gavin Baulch, and my guest is Tim Brosnan from the Christians Against Poverty. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Gavin. Nice to be here.
Yes. Now, I love the slogan. We had World Poverty Action Groups that were in front of us, organised by Christians. What's this Christians Against Poverty? It's sort of bit closer to home, isn't it?
It is. So we're really passionate about alleviating poverty in Australia and making sure people are aware that poverty does exist in Australia. General surveys are saying that roughly 1 in 8 Australians considered living in poverty. Representative of about 650,000 Australian kids living in a home that simply just doesn't have enough income coming in to meet the general cost of living, and a lot of those families become very vulnerable to borrowing and living outside of their means, and really have never been taught key skills of how to manage their finances correctly. And so we're a great organisation that just walks a journey with people, love them along their way, give them clear direction of how they can walk themselves out of poverty.
Awesome. Now let's move from there back to your life for a
Sure.
moment. And you're a bit of an adventurous sort of person, a bit of white water rapids and things?
I am, yeah. I'm very outdoor minded. I'm a mountain biker. I belong to a local mountain bike club here in Melbourne. I love to surf, and I love that I've now got kids who are following in those footsteps.
Okay.
So,
all right, but not so handy with a hammer.
I'm not, no. No, my wife doesn't trust me with around the house jobs. They get delegated to my father, who's excellent with the tools. But put me on a mountain bike or a surfboard and I know what I'm doing.
Okay, well that's your box of tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you did a lot of this kind of extreme sport, let's call it, up in the Canberra area?
Yeah, my father was in the army and we moved around a lot, but settled in Canberra. And as much as what you think about Canberra, if you're an outdoorsy person, it's a great city. The mountains are close, the air's always clean, the ocean's close, and so it's just a good city to enjoy the hills, go hiking, camping. We used to take our surfboards on the river in wintertime when it was swelling, and the river would form an artificial wave.
Wow.
And we would literally surf on an artificial wave on the river.
So what you're saying is you avoided politics as best you could?
For a Canberra, yes.
Okay, so you moved to Melbourne?
Yes, came to Melbourne in 1997.
Okay, and was there a draw card for that?
Yeah, I travelled in America and went to a Christian summer camp in the States, and oddly enough, got to the camp in Tennessee, which is in the deep south of America, and met a guy from here in Melbourne. One of the camp directors was from Melbourne. And even smaller world, he attended a church with a lady from my dad's work. My father and mother had moved to Melbourne, and it was like crazy small world. And he said, after the summer there of 97, why don't you come to Melbourne? I'll get you a job as a courier. And I thought I'll give Melbourne a go for 6 months, and I was going to then maybe give Hobart or something like that a go. But I met my wife.
Wow.
And that was in 97 and still here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Melbourne is not just the most livable city, but you could find your wife here if people move.
Exactly. If they come to Melbourne, yeah, you find your wife. In
All
a
right.
good church.
Yes. Now let's go back to some of these experiences like the overseas camp.
Yep.
Now, what were they doing? What was so interesting about that camp?
So we had youth groups come from all over America for 1 week to Tennessee, and we would work on people's homes, so do home repair projects. So not glass or plumbing or electrical, but fixing porches, refitting roofs and things like that, building wheelchair ramps, very simple stuff. But what I got to understand was what first world poverty really looks like. And it's a bit of a challenge because you've got to... Kids aren't going to school, but there's a brand new Chevy pickup in the driveway and a satellite dish on the roof. But we're not called to look at the circumstances. We're called to just go and help and do that. And God really started to put onto my heart a need for missions in our own backyard. Yes, overseas missions is important. Yes, taking care of third world countries is very important. But so is looking after our own backyard.
So why do you think it took seeing poverty in the first world, the Western world, overseas before you picked it up in Australia?
I think I'm very blessed. My parents were great. We were never rich, but we had nice things. We were able to travel. We camped all up and down the eastern seaboard. And I think that was my first glimpse of poverty in a first world. It's like you hear when people go on their first overseas mission trip, it really affects their heart. And this, for me, was seeing that, and it affected my heart.
Okay, so is this because it's something that's hidden behind four walls? Why don't we see it so clearly? You did see it. It became evidenced.
I think we choose not to see it.
Okay.
I think we choose what we're able to see, and you can choose to actually stop and look at it and do something about it, or you can drive on by and go, okay, it's someone must be taking care of them.
So are we taught this? I mean, I can close my eyes now and say, oh, you're not there.
Yeah.
Why do we do this, do you think? Why?
I think we don't know how to do it. I think there's just not enough education and things taught about how we can actually go and address the needs of simply meeting with your next door neighbour. How many of us actually know the person living right beside us? Do we know their need? Are they eating 3 squares a day? Are they having enough fuel for their car? We don't know unless we take the step, go next door, knock on their door.
Okay, so you're looking at what you saw and then you're translating it back into what you do. Now let's pick up a few other loose ends. You got connected with Light FM?
Yes, yeah, I loved working for Light FM, a great radio station, and learned a lot of things as well. I'd never been in media before and learned a lot of things about media, but also learned a lot about community, just how a voice on a radio can build a friendship with someone at home. And that voice on the radio might be that person at home's only friend. And it's just brilliant that we'd go and do outside broadcasts and things like that, and people would come and just be hanging to meet that breakfast host that they listen to every morning and have a laugh to. And we'd be able to connect them with that listener on a personal level, and it just really felt like we were creating community. All
right, so we're going to start connecting these dots. So you've had an extreme sports life. You've bumped into first world poverty, which is probably a new term to most people watching the program, or at least they haven't translated that it could be their neighbour, and a little bit of media experience. So we're going to tie this up when we come back. You're watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Baulch, and my guest is Tim Brosnan from Christians Against Poverty. Tim, we've looked at a few elements again of your life, and we've had some extreme sports and up in the Appalachian Mountains, and you've met first world poverty. You come back to Australia, you get connected with a broad range of churches, and the reality is that behind some of our nice walls with homes and glass and 2 stories, there's poverty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's getting greater and greater. It seems like the 1 in 8 stat that we gave before seems to be getting less and less. And it's, we're in a society that tells us that we need to buy now and pay later. The temptation to live outside of our means is great. And it's got to be very tempting when you've got bills coming from everywhere, and you just don't know where the money's coming from, and you see an ad on TV saying, just borrow X amount of dollars for now and you can pay it back in 6 to 8 weeks' time. They don't tell you that there's massive interest rates attached to those things, and if you can't afford it now, there's not likeliness you won't be able to afford to repay it in that time as well. So
you're locked into a cycle that never ends.
Exactly, yeah. And I know personally firsthand, my very first credit card was when I was about 21, and I got a credit card to fix an engine in a vehicle. And it took me about 3 years to pay off a $1,000 credit card. And I can't tell you the amount of interest I probably paid on that. It went through to the collection department, and I got the phone calls, I got the letters every single day. And we have families getting that from anywhere from 5 to 10 different creditors. And you can imagine the pressure it puts on households and families, marriages, relationships. And unfortunately, 1 in 3 of the clients that we actually help either considered or actually attempted taking their life before coming to CAP for help. And that's tragic that someone would consider taking their life for financial reasons. And if we can do something to one person to help them and show them that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I love it.
So when you received those phone calls and letters, internally, what's going on?
I didn't know where money was going to come from. I thought, you have thoughts of, am I going to go to jail? Are the police going to turn it? Am I going to lose my car? And you live with that fear every day of what will actually happen today. Thankfully, I was young and I wasn't married, didn't have a family, and I only had myself to worry about then. I just can't imagine the pressure that families have to go through. A mum or dad having to decide, is it fuel for the car or is it food for the table? And many of our the families, the lovely individuals we work with, they've got to make that decision every single day.
So how many families are on your books?
Well, roughly Australia-wide, we're helping about 900 families at any one time. Just to give you a bit of an idea, through the debt management service that we provide, we're managing just on $22 million of unsecured debt. So not mortgages, not car loans, that's simply credit debt. Utility debt is becoming larger and larger now. People owing money to phone and gas and electricity companies. And so it is really a massive burden that Australians are walking around carrying.
Okay, so you're addressing the issue by offering services.
Yeah.
But how do you convey that you're there to those who may be, just a little prideful or just in despair?
Yeah. So CAP's model is we partner with the local church. So we train volunteers within the local church and teach them how to facilitate our service to their community. We are really passionate about connecting the church to the community. And we could talk with the church and they might say, but we've never had anyone come to us asking for help in that matter. I guarantee you they probably never will. It's not until we go to the streets, we go to find those cracks, find the people who are doing it tough and say, hey, we got this service. And CAP service is all done at no cost. We're a charity, so families don't pay those large fees to get our help, to get them out of debt. But it takes the local church just loving their community, going to the streets and finding those who need help. But it does come, like anything, you've got to know there's a problem before you start to ask help for it. The old analogy of, you'll quit smoking when the doctor tells you you've got 3 months to live. Unfortunately, that's how it works in finance as well. It's not until the car's been threatened to be taken, or the marriage is about to break down, or the house is about to be possessed, that people will turn and say, look, I need some help.
How do you let folks in the community know that you're there? What's the means you use?
Yes, so when we train these volunteers within the church, one of the things we train them is referral work. We've got to promote this service to the community. So connecting with the local Centrelink manager, connecting with other agencies, counselling services, libraries, doctors' offices, going there and dropping off brochures and saying, we've got this awesome service, we can help people who are in debt, we can help them at no cost. But I also pray that it's not just the church getting people who need financial help, the help. Maybe the Centrelink manager is going to find out about someone who's homeless and needs some shelter or a meal, and they contact the local church. My heart's desire is the local church becomes the number one place the community turns to for help, because they know if they turn to the church, we're just going to love them. We're not going to require them to buy a Bible or put on a suit, but just allow us to love them and walk a journey with them.
Yes. So you're introducing something that maybe the schools don't, and that is life skills.
Yeah. Well, budgeting. We're not taught as in schools how to budget. Some of the biggest decisions that most of us are going to make in life are financial decisions. Our first car, our first home, they're massive financial decisions, but we're not taught how to budget. We're not taught how to live within our means. We're pushed by society to buy now, pay later. Can't afford it, just pop it on the card, just pop that on the card, pop that on the card. But what happens if you lose your job? What happens if a relationship breaks down and you don't have enough income to repay that debt? It becomes unmanageable debt. That's when the letters start to arrive and the phone calls, and unfortunately the door knocking starts to arrive asking, where's our money?
Yes. I was doing some TV commercials, watching a Christian filmmaking group, and one of the ads that they did, they said that 1/3 of all Americans were just 2 paychecks away from abject poverty.
Yeah, that's right. We owe so much money back to creditors because we've learnt to live outside of our means, because it's so easy to live outside of our means. Paul said in one of his letters in the Bible, it says, I've learnt to live content. I've learnt to live with a full stomach, with an empty stomach. I've learnt to live with much and with little. And then he goes on to say, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And so we need to learn that God will enable us to get by when times are tough and get by when times are good.
Thank you, Tim. You're watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Baulch, and my guest is Tim Brosnan from Christians Against Poverty. Tim, we talked about just how many people are on your books, you know, 900 families basically. And tell me some of the good outcomes, like why were people in debt? So remind us again what first world poverty looks like, and then some of the good stories.
Yeah, so poverty in Australia is defined as a minimum income that a household needs simply to meet the cost of living. So to cover food, fuel, accommodation, and basic utilities. And if the income level doesn't actually reach there, they're seen as living below the poverty line. And so that's how we look at poverty in Australia. Some of the great things with the families we're working with, and I don't like to use the word clients because they're not clients. They're awesome people that we get to walk a journey with. But each year, roughly, we see about 350 of our families or the people we're working with actually go debt-free, become debt-free. And our head office is based in Newcastle in New South Wales. And when our girls get to make a call to the family and say, hey, guess what? You've made your last payment. You now owe no money to anybody. It's brilliant. And they have harmonicas on their desk at head office and everyone blows their harmonicas, and we really celebrate that the family has become debt-free. And along that journey, we'll have taught them how to budget well, how to live within their means, and really to put them on a course that should see them not returning back into the same financial mess that they came to us in and entrusted us to walk a journey with them.
Okay, so take me through this harmonica moment again, all right? So imagine we're in your office. Now what's taking place?
Yep, so one of our ladies from our client service department will have spoken with the particular family that they're helping as a caseworker, and let them know that the last payment went through to the last person they owed money to. And so that staff member grabs a harmonica, starts blowing it, everyone else starts blowing their harmonicas, and we celebrate as a corporate, as a whole organisation, that one family. I mean, when you're doing it 350 times a year, it's pretty cool.
Wow. And how do you keep in contact with those families?
Yeah, so with those, again, coming back to the church base, that's why it's a church-based help that we do. And so the local people that we've trained in the church, the volunteers, they'll have been walking that journey with them right through. Maybe it's taken 1 year, maybe it's taken 4 or 5 years to get the family debt-free. But they've had that person in the church walking a personal journey with them, maybe inviting them to key church things or just putting on a meal here and there, and they've built a relationship, a key friendship that we pray lasts well beyond their debt journey with us. And we hope that their work situation might have changed, their relationship might have changed, and we've opened up a new avenue. And as we talked about, I love the outdoors, I love life, and I'm a very naturally happy person, and I love people to experience the things I have, and that drives me to get people out of the bondage, whatever that bondage is, if it's financial, if it's whatever, so they can experience their own earth, whatever they think is great, whether it's the outdoors, whether it's a cafe, whatever it be, that smile comes back to their face.
So it doesn't matter who the church is. You've got the Roman Catholic Church, the Anglicans, the Baptists, the AOGs, CRC, just right across the Christian world.
Yeah, and one of the things I've learned from Word Bookstore to Light FM and now at CAP is denominations it's almost a thing of the past. We look for churches that are sold out to reach their community, to people who want to go get their hands dirty, get into the community, find those people who need help, and just help them for helping's sake, because God first loved us, and we pour that love out onto people with no requirements of them other than, would you let us walk a journey with you?
Okay, now let's say a family, here they are, they've got some debts, and suddenly the mother is experiencing an unexpected pregnancy. Where does the help come in here?
Yes, so with those volunteers that we've trained in the church, part of their training is to know what services are available within their own church, within their own church community, and then if also into the local community as well. So say we have a young mum and she became pregnant, was unexpected, and that's going to mean bills. That's going to mean other bits and pieces, trips to the hospital and all that kind of stuff. Are there services within your church area that you know that you can connect that young person or that family in with? Same with an addiction. If someone had a gambling issue, there's no point addressing the finances if we don't address the heart behind what's caused the debt. Yes. And we want to get people set free in all areas, not just financially.
Okay, so here you are in Victoria, head office is in Newcastle in New South Wales. How widespread in Australia?
Yeah, so we're in virtually every capital city now. We partner in twofold with the church, so they can either just run our budgeting course, which is a simple 3-week budget course, very simple to run, or our full debt counselling, full debt management service. And so we have churches, roughly around about 550 churches that partner with CAP in some capacity all around Australia.
That's incredible. So the volunteer staff, how many would you have?
In excess of 1,000, yeah, very much. And these are people that turn up to if they're running our CAP Money budgeting course, turn up to a full day training on a Saturday in their own time to be trained to go and help people. And they're just passionate, again, about seeing people set free in their financial situation, but also just bringing a little bit of God's hope into their life as well at the same time.
Yes. So let me cover a few points here. It's not government funding?
No, not at all.
Okay, so it's not-for-profit organisation?
Yep, so we're completely donor funded. We rely on the support of anyone, Christians, non-Christians, businesses, people who just believe in what we're doing.
Okay, and it's a free service?
Absolutely. We do not charge a cent for anything that we do for the individuals getting our help.
And you're not asking people to come back to church either?
No. We just want to love them. We just want to... when someone calls for our help, we actually send that volunteer to the person's home. We go and sit in their lounge room. We don't ask them to come to the church. We just ask, can we come to you?
That's quite amazing. I mean, that's real freedom. Free from the debt, free from inexperience with budgeting, and a freedom to rejoice with you, blowing harmonicas,
yep.
And just a good handshake at the end of the exercise that you've carried out.
Exactly, yeah. We love what we do.
Well, thank you, Tim, so much.
My pleasure.
You've been watching Support Life, and that's all for our program today. Join us again next week. Goodbye.